Welcome back to Movie Recaps. The film begins with a young woman, Sarah, driving her car. She is on her way to a new job. As she drives, she sees a hitchhiker on the side of the road. Sarah decides to pick him up. The hitchhiker introduces himself as Mark. He seems friendly enough. They continue their journey, and Mark tells Sarah about his life. He says he's a student and is traveling to see his family. Sarah feels a bit uneasy, but tries to ignore it. Soon, they arrive at a small town. Mark as today he'll be presenting a horror and mystery movie from 2009 called Orphan. Spoilers follow. Be careful and stay safe. Kate and her husband John arrive at a hospital since she is having contractions. She is taken away on a gurney, while John remains to complete her admission paperwork. Right away, Kate begins to bleed. She opens her eyes in a surgery room with doctors and nurses around her, but her husband hasn't arrived. The entire scenario seems odd and scary to her, as the nurse informs her that her infant has passed away. Kate is in disbelief. John enters and begins recording the delivery, acting as if everything was normal. The nurse gives the baby to her. Kate lets out a scream, and then she opens her eyes in her bed. She rises and heads to the bathroom, observing the mark on her stomach. She swallows a pill. The following day, Kate attends a therapy session where Dr. Browning clarifies that such nightmares are a typical reaction to the trauma of a stillbirth. Kate ponders if the bad dream was connected to that or to the reality that she's about to adopt a child. She believes she may not be prepared. Kate informs her therapist that she thought about purchasing some alcohol, and Browning responds that the main thing is she ultimately didn't buy any. Regarding the adoption, the counselor informs her that she must ultimately choose whether to proceed. Kate goes to get her daughter Max, who is deaf, from school. She is taking her home, but as she pulls away from a traffic light while distracted, she nearly causes a crash. Later, Kate is observed playing the piano and writing music. She becomes annoyed by a sound she hears, so she steps outside and observes Max bouncing a basketball against the wall. She shouts at her to halt, and the child says sorry. John gets back to the house with their son Daniel, and the three of them play around with the basketball. Later that evening, Kate is tucking Max into bed, and Max requests that Kate read her a story. The narrative concerns the deceased child. Max inquires if she will have a new sister. Before Kate retires for the night, she consumes an additional pill. She climbs into bed with John, and they discuss the adoption. She decided they would proceed with the plan. A while after, they are observed entering an orphanage. Sister Abigail greets them directly and instructs them to observe their surroundings. Kate remains on the ground floor, watching the young girls play, and John heads up to the second level. He hears a girl singing and enters the room where Esther is painting. She shares a wonderful tale about the artwork she's creating, just as Kate and Abigail enter the space. John brings them together, and the three of them keep on chatting. The young woman mentions that no one has ever spoken with her previously because she is unusual. They appear to be fond of her. They discuss with Abigail the idea of adopting Esther. She explains to them that she came from Russia and that the individuals who brought her to the US perished in a house fire. However, despite everything, Abigail believes the girl is amazing. Kate says yes. 3 weeks later, they collect her from the orphanage and bid farewell to Abigail. Inside the vehicle, Kate instructs Esther in sign language. They arrive at the house, and Max is happy to see them. Esther immediately introduces herself to her, inquiring of Kate how well she can hear. She explains to her that she can hear barely enough to be able to read people's lips. Upon entering, they encounter Grandma Barbara and Daniel. That evening, everyone presents her with welcome presents, except for Daniel, who already appears envious of the girl, particularly after she gives John a big thank you embrace. Daniel heads outdoors to the treehouse with his pals, and they browse through adult magazine. Esther and Max are playing in the snow, while Barbara and Kate discuss Max and Kate's intention to resume teaching after Esther is settled. Barbara appears to be let down by Kate. A storm is developing that evening as Kate prepares for sleep. Esther gets up and heads to Max's bedroom. John and Kate are being intimate when a knock sounds at the door, and it's the two girls requesting to sleep in their bed. Esther wishes to lie down beside John. The following morning, everyone is prepared to depart the house and head to school when Esther descends the stairs in an elaborate gown, causing the other children to chuckle. Kate questions if Esther truly intends to wear that outfit to school, and the girl responds that there's no issue with being unique. Kate allows her to put on the dress. Afterward, her teacher greets her in class, and then one of the children teases her. On that particular day, Max and Esther are playing on the icy lake when Kate rushes out, shouting that such an activity is forbidden. At the same time, Daniel is using a paintball gun and fires at a bird. Esther and Max approach, and he is quite distressed, but Esther hands him a big rock, instructing him to end its suffering. He is unwilling to do it, so she completes it for him. Later, Esther takes a bath. Kate enters her bedroom to store her clean clothes, but discovers an antique Bible lodged in a compartment. She doesn't notice Esther peering from the bathroom as she searches through it and discovers a picture of a man within. At school, Daniel's friends are teasing him about Esther, so he knocks her books down. When she arrives to collect them, a classmate discovers her Bible, and during their tussle over it, it drops to the floor. Esther retrieves it, but the girl grabs at her necklace, calling her a dog. Esther yells. Afterward, Kate shows her how to play the piano. Next, she questions her regarding the event at the school, but she refuses to discuss it. Kate hands her a scrapbook, which she had already begun for her, after Esther inquires about the baby she miscarried. Kate explains what occurred, while pointing out the roses where they spread her ashes. Following dinner, believing the children are asleep, Kate and John have sex in the kitchen. Esther shows up unexpectedly. The following morning, Kate approaches her to discuss the matter. Esther appears calm while she paints, stating she is aware of it and uses a swear word. Kate and John discuss it afterward, and she believes they should bring her to a counselor. John believes it's an excessive reaction to bring the child to therapy for a single bad word. John brings the girls to a park, and as they are on a swing, a neighbor approaches him to flirt. At the same time, Esther's tormentor also enters the play area. Esther's focus is split between her and John's conversation with the neighbor. The bully is actually scared of Esther and watches over her as she heads to play in the castle. She desires to use a slide when Esther shoves her abruptly, fracturing her leg. Max watches her perform the action. That evening at the diner, John discusses it with Esther, and Max verifies the girl's fall. Before they eat, Esther says a prayer, and Max does likewise. She even comprehends sign language more proficiently than Daniel. He provokes her and begins to insult her, at which point the parents step in. He departs, mad and swearing. John places a lock on his treehouse because he is being punished. Later, Kate is at the shop with her daughters when her sister, Abigail, phones her. Esther won't speak to her, but Kate keeps going. She moves away and informs her sister Abigail about all the recent occurrences as Max observes her lips and relays her statements to Esther. That evening, Esther performs flawlessly on the piano, which surprises Kate. She questions why Esther acted like she didn't know how to play, and the girl answers that she did it to help her. That evening, Kate and John have a disagreement about Esther, and their dispute quickly escalates. Esther listens to them in the next room, feeling pleased. One day, Abigail, the sister, visits the home. She speaks with the parents regarding Esther, believing that something might be amiss with her. She mentions some things she could have done before, such as harming other kids. The young woman overhears everything and proceeds to find Max, explaining that she requires her assistance so the unkind woman doesn't remove her. Kate believes Abigail could be right about something, but John feels she's exaggerating. Kate proposes they bring her to a counselor, and he consents. At the same time, Esther instructs Max to locate the treehouse keys, but she then uses them to retrieve a firearm from John's safe. She removes the ammunition from the handgun, leaving a single one in place. She aims it at Max, frightening her greatly. When Abigail drives away from the house, Esther brings Max to a bridge, explaining that they will frighten her so badly she won't ever wish to return. As the vehicle nears, she shoves Max into the road and Abigail nearly strikes the girl, swerving and wrecking the automobile. Abigail discovers Max weeping just as Esther strikes her with a hammer. She tells Max to assist her in getting Abigail off the street. They push her down, but she's still breathing, so Esther kills her with the hammer. The pair enters the treehouse, and Esther conceals her blood-stained clothing and the hammer there. She informs Max that they will also imprison her simply for assisting her. Esther then expresses her love for her. Daniel watches them descend from the treehouse, but Esther also spots him. Later that evening, she enters his room holding a surgical knife, warning him to keep quiet. The child wets his pants. John and Kate bring Esther to meet Browning, who discusses her with them while she waits outside. The counselor states that the girl is perfectly fine, but that Kate is actually the issue. She believes Kate feels insufficient as a mother and is directing it at Esther. John accepts her explanation. Upon their return home, Kate receives a phone call from the orphanage, informing her that Sister Abigail has not come back since the day before. The police look for her and discover her corpse where Esther placed it. A police officer speaks with Kate and John, stating there are no suspects. Esther is in her room turning the light of her fish tank on and off, revealing a disturbing painting she created of the house and the family. Kate looks up information online about troubled children and presents her discoveries to John. He argues with her once more, and she informs him that she will no longer be meeting with Dr. Browning. Kate is concerned about Esther's true identity and states she will reach out to the orphanage in Russia, Esther's place of origin. When she places the call, she discovers that no documentation exists for her prior to her coming to the US. The following day, John attempts to rouse Esther so he can bring her to the dentist, but she refuses to go, so he agrees to set up a new appointment. They pass the day painting side by side, and Esther shares with him that she believes Kate dislikes her. At the same time, Kate is driving the other kids to school and questions them about her. They tell lies, claiming she has never done anything bad. That evening, Esther enters the kitchen and informs Kate she has a gift for her. She hands her a pail of roses gathered from the spot where Kate's daughter's ashes were spread. Kate becomes angry and takes hold of her, but John explains to her that he was to blame. Later that evening, Esther heads to the garage and injures her hand. Back in bed, she asks for John, explaining her arm is in pain, and when he looks at it, he discovers it's fractured. They return from the doctor's office, and he's putting her to bed when Kate enters. He faces her, but Kate states she didn't hold her that firmly. Afterward, she visits a liquor store and purchases a pair of wine bottles. She becomes slightly intoxicated, but pours the remaining open wine bottle down the sink. Kate takes the children to school the next day. Daniel exits the car and his bag tears, so as Kate moves to assist him, Esther shifts the car into gear with Max still inside. Kate chases the vehicle until the snow eventually brings it to a halt. Later that evening, Dr. Browning is at their home, and Kate insists she put the car in park and that Max is protecting Esther. John presents her with the other wine bottle that Esther located. The counselor informs her that she secured a place for her at a rehab facility, but Kate then shares her version of events regarding the wine. They don't trust her concerning the wine and regarding the mishap. John believes she is being controlling and gives her 7 days to enter a rehabilitation facility, or he will depart and take their children. At the same time, Esther informs Max that she will shoot her mother if she reports her. Afterward, Daniel enters Max's room and she informs him about Abigail and the treehouse. He states he will retrieve the items from the treehouse, but Esther overhears him. Kate wakes up in the middle of the night and quietly enters Max's room. All at once, Esther switches on the lamp. They argue a bit, but Esther reveals the diary she had been writing in, making it clear she had read it. She provokes her, but Kate isn't fooled. The following day, Kate phones the orphanage once more, and after learning nothing, she retrieves Esther's Bible. She discovers it concealed within a stuffed animal and sees photos of men inside. She notices the words San Institute written on it and promptly looks up their meaning on the internet. She dials the number she discovers, and they inform her that the institute is in fact a psychiatric hospital, not an orphanage. At the same time, Daniel slips away from home to retrieve the items from the treehouse. Esther trails him to that spot and begins dousing the evidence with gasoline, then ignites it and keeps pouring gasoline over Daniel. She traps him within the flaming treehouse. He shouts for his mom, but she's occupied looking into Esther. Daniel climbs onto the rooftop, calling out for assistance. He lands on a timber plank, but slides and drops to the floor while Esther observes him. All at once, Kate spots the flames, just as Esther moves over Daniel to murder him with a stone. Max shoves her back, and Kate shows up before she can take any further action. Daniel is still alive. Everyone is at the hospital, and the doctor arrives to tell them he has a bad neck injury and may not recall the events. Esther is concerned about that. Kate informs John about her discovery concerning Esther, but he remains unconvinced. As they argue, Esther enters Daniel's room. Max understands the situation and follows her. Esther begins to smother Daniel using his pillow, while Max heads off to find their parent. The alarm sounds in Daniel's room, and the doctors bring him back. Kate faces Esther and hits her. Attendants seize her and administer a sedative. She fails to answer a crucial phone call. Later, Kate awakens and promptly inquires about Daniel. She pleads with John to keep Esther away from Max, while she remains at the hospital for the night. That evening, Max removes her hearing device, and her father puts her to bed. Esther enters and takes the aid as she bids her goodnight. John heads to the lounge and drinks too much. Esther comes down the stairs, looking like a grown-up, and takes a seat beside John, who is confused by the situation. Esther begins to kiss him, but he pulls away. He tells her that his feelings for her aren't the same as the love he and Kate share. John instructs her to go to her room, but she responds by telling him not to speak to her as if she were a child. He mentions he plans to contact the orphanage tomorrow regarding her. Esther heads to her bedroom and weeps. At the same time, Kate receives a phone call from a physician at the Saan Institute. He identifies Esther and instructs her to remove her family from the house, then to contact the police. He informs her that Esther is not a young girl, but rather has a hormonal condition that merely makes her appear childlike. She is actually a grown woman.